In this video, what I'm going to do is show you how to use buttons. And what we're going to hopefully make is a menu, and I've got multiple videos. And in the main menu, I'm going to have buttons, and you'll see as you hover over a button, the cursor changes from the pointer to the finger. And I'm also going to make the button so it has a bit of an interactive feel. It feels when I hover over it's going to maybe glow, and when I click on it, it's going to then play the video of one of the Flash movies that we made. Don't worry if you haven't already finished your Flash movie. I'm going to show you how you can export it. So we'll create a separate new document. So to get started, I'm going to just make a new Flash document here. So blank Flash document, and I'm going to show you how I make a button. Real simple. I'm not going to get too carried away on this one. I'm just going to use a rectangle. I'm going to select color of the outline of the rectangle. Maybe I like the color blue, so I'm going to make it a blue rectangle. The fill color, I'm going to make it no fill. I'm going to make the size of the border, the outline, about 6. And maybe instead of a straight line, I might use sort of more of a cool looking line. So these are down in the properties that I can set up. So I'm just going to make a little button here for my skate video. So here you go. Here's a little button. Okay. So far people are like, well, this is just a regular shape. Yeah, I haven't turned it into a button just yet. Another thing I might do here is I could take a little screenshot of the video I'm going to put in here, and to do that I can use the snipping tool. I like to use the snipping tool quite a bit in Windows, so I'm just going to click snipping tool, and then I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to snip from my screen my little skateboard and what looks like the jump that I make. So here's kind of and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that in here, and I'm just going to use the arrow tool and move that around. Okay, so here we go. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some text, and I'll put the text right here, and this will be skater video, and I'm just going to take the text and maybe move it just a smidgen right here. So all three of these things are going to be my button. So here's a very simple button I just drew. Took me just a few seconds. Great. So now the next thing, this is not a button just yet. So what I'm going to do is I want to turn this into a button, and to turn it into a button, I just highlight all of it. So I've got the skater, the little picture of a skater, and the outline, the blue outline, and I'm going to go to modify, and I'm going to convert it into a symbol, and the type of symbol is going to be called a button. And then I need to give the symbol a name. And when we name symbols, what's very important is to give it a name that you can remember how to spell, because we might refer to it if we're going to do some coding. So I might call this something like BTN for button, and then maybe the underscore character, because I don't want to use a space, and I'll call it skate. Or skater button. Okay, so it's called BTN skater button, and maybe calling a button is a little redundant, but I press OK, and now I've got this as a button. Another thing I'd like to show you is we're going to reference buttons all the time in here, and there's a window I want to select called library, and so I put a check mark by library so my library is visible, and you're going to see over here there's a button called Button Skateboarder. So if I was to delete this off of here, you might think it's gone. And in fact, it is. If I go to test the movie, you'll see there's nothing on there. But if I go back here and I can drag it from my library, and if I drag from my library, you'll see there's my button, and I can place this button where I want. Okay, so what is a button? Let me show you the real thing in a button. So right now at the top of my screen, you'll see I've got scene 1. I'm in the first frame, and it looks like just a regular thing, but it's now a button. Doesn't really act any different. Here's how I get it to be different. I'm going to double click on this, and it's going to pop up in a window next to it, and instead of a timeline, it's going to be a special button timeline. Watch this. Double click on the button, and now BTN Skater button appears, and there's different states. The up state is when the button is just up. Now what I want to do is I'm going to make a new frame for over, so I'll press F6, and what I'm going to do in F6, I'm going to hold the Shift key, and I'm just going to select the outline bits, and I'm going to turn the outline from blue, and I'm going to make it glow a bit, maybe red. I might make the background glow a very pale color, like yellow. Why is that not working? Oh, maybe I won't. I'm going to take the text of the skater and maybe the same thing. I'm going to make it go from black, and it might turn red as well. So that's the over state. So that means I'm hovering over it. The next is when I press down. And so again, same thing. I might hit F6. And what I might do this time is I'll leave the colors glowing like they did in the overstate, but I'm just going to move it down a few pixels and to the right a few pixels. And this gives it a fact that it's sort of being pushed, right? It's going to move a bit as I click and press my button on it. Okay, so now I'm done. And if I was to go back to the scene, it automatically saves. You'll notice it's only one frame, and that's great. That's only want it to be one frame. But when I press play and test the movie, you'll see that it turns into a finger, and as I click it, it moves, and as I hover over it, it changes and starts to glow. And that is how we make a button. Next, I'm going to show you how we're going to program and put some codes for this button.